The 7 trumpets in Revelation. In this video, we'll talk about the 5th trumpet of Revelation. Before we go on with the 5th trumpet, I want to address that the interpretation regarding the 5th trumpet are of my personal conviction. Although the interpretation of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd trumpets are highly probable and already accepted by many as truthful interpretation, the information on the 4th and 5th trumpets are merely of my personal conviction that are being presented for the first time in this manner for the public review. So let us study about the 5th trumpet. It's rather long and taking a big portion of the Revelation chapter 9 from verse 1 to 12. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from the heaven unto the earth, and to him was given a key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion, when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. According to the passage, there must be a smoke rising out of the bottomless pit, and the locust out of the smoke. And the people who have not the seal of God in their foreheads must suffer from the 5 months of tormenting activity, but not killed. Only an event that meets these requirements can fulfill the prophecy. Continuing in verse 7, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and sound of their wings was the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon. 1 woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter, and the prophecy for 5th trumpet ends here. If the 4th trumpet has sounded at around year 2000, the 5th trumpet must follow after the turn of the millennium, and there is a presence of the locusts, which we'll look into. Men do not die at the 5th trumpet, but the locusts torment for 5 months' time. There is a king named Abaddon, Apollyon, behind this event, whose name means destroyer. We have reviewed the Persian Gulf War of 1990 to 1991 in the 4th trumpet, but from the clue that the meaning of the king's name, Abaddon Apollyon, is destroyer, some interpret the Gulf War to be the 5th trumpet. That's why we want to examine the Gulf War again to see if it qualifies to be the 5th trumpet. In Gulf War, there was Iraq fighting against a coalition of 34 countries, where Iraq used helicopter airborne forces to fight over Kuwait City. Iraq's leader was Saddam Hussein, and the name Saddam means destroyer, hence Abaddon or Apollyon. But this interpretation is not free of problems, because Saddam Hussein is later captured and gets executed in 2006, while some may insist that Saddam actually did not die and still remains alive. Saddam has officially died. So the problem ensues from conventional perspective, where many interpret the name Abaddon is the name of the Antichrist. But according to the Bible, it says that Jesus Christ will capture the Antichrist at the time of his return. The basis for this conventional argument can be found in the following verses. First in Revelation chapter 17, which reads, "The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on earth shall wonder, whose name were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And in Revelation chapter 19:20, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought or worked miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So thus we can see that both the beast and the false prophet who worked miracles will be caught and cast alive into the lake of fire by Jesus. So the problem becomes obvious. If Abaddon is the name of the beast, who is also the Antichrist, then it is the Abaddon that Jesus himself will capture to finish him. And if Saddam, who represents Abaddon, died already, then an apparent contradiction arises. Therefore, it is my opinion that the Gulf War cannot be the fifth trumpet. So, in summary, there are many problems with interpreting the Gulf War as a fifth trumpet, because they seem to contradict the scriptures. Firstly, although Saddam means destroyer, he has already died officially. We already covered this in previous slides, but many Bible scholars interpret Abaddon and Apollyon to be the name of the Antichrist, in which case Saddam, if he were indeed Abaddon or Apollyon, he should remain alive until Jesus returns. But as we all know, Saddam is dead. And secondly, the Gulf War incident lasted longer than 5 months' time. Remember, the power was given to the locusts to hurt men, but the power is limited to 5 months. But apparently, the Gulf War lasted far longer than 5 months' duration. Lastly, people were killed by the locusts. If the locusts are interpreted as the Apache helicopters, as some do, then according to the prophecies, the Apache helicopters are only allowed to torment people like Scorpion. And even though the Bible indicates that the severity of the torment will be so great that people shall seek to rather die, the prophecy further states that death will escape them. But the fact that the fatalities estimated from the direct air campaign alone is estimated to be 10,000, while the civilian fatalities, excluding the Iraqi combat deaths, is estimated at 100,000. Therefore, the chance of Gulf War to be seen as the fulfillment of the fifth trumpet is very unlikely. In my opinion, more of a recent oil rig explosion incident named Deepwater Horizon oil spill should be closely examined. A seafloor oil gusher exploded on April 20th of 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico. The resultant environmental disaster is recorded to be the largest accidental marine oil spill in history. BP estimated the oil spill flow rate of hypothetical worst-case scenario to be 6.8 million gallons per day, and the total oil spill calculated from such high flow rate for a duration of exactly 5 straight months easily surpassed the amount of oil that was burnt in Iraq War. But what made the oil rig incident in the Gulf of Mexico problematic was the dispersant Corexit 9527 and Corexit 9500 that they sprayed to break up the oil. Like in the days of the Gulf War, when the soldiers suffered strange chronic multi-symptom disorder from exposure to the nerve gas and the depleted uranium, a new terminology like Gulf War syndrome came to birth at the oil rig incident called New Gulf War syndrome. The people in the region of the Gulf of Mexico who were exposed to the dispersant suffered strange disorders, and the dispersant Corexit 9500 is found to be one of the most toxic dispersant agents ever developed, as described by the Anita George R.S. and James R. Clark in the report for Exxon Biomedical Sciences Incorporated. However, the use of the dispersant continued until the federal government officially declared successful permanent sealing of the oil well on September 19th of 2010. But before we accept the interpretation of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill as the fifth trumpet, there are a few questions we must examine. If large amounts of dispersants were sprayed with aircraft every day, can these aircraft be considered as the locusts? And there are accounts of many helicopters being used in the post-explosion operation. However, the U.S. government forbid any photographing, videotaping, witnessing, journalism activities, media broadcasting, publications about the activities of these helicopters. So, other than the fact that there were many helicopters in their area, not much is known about the real purpose of these aircrafts due to the media blackout. What was their purpose and are they important? And in regards to the question of prophetic duration of 5 months, shall we simply accept the date from April 20th to September 19th to represent the 5 months written in Revelation, as we are accustomed to think in terms of Gregorian calendar? Or shall we look further and take the opportunity to examine the details meticulously, to clear out any doubts and discrepancies that arise from using the biblical method of calculating days and time, and figure out the prophetic clue? According to the BP report issued on September 1st, 2010, titled Deepwater Horizon Containment and Response, Harnessing Capabilities and Lessons Learned, it states in page 55, the aerial application of dispersion in approximately 400 sorties, initiating use within 2 days of the spill. So, although the oil rig exploded on April 20th, BP did not start using the dispersant until 2 days later. But even if we subtract this 2-day response time from Gregorian 153 days, we are still left with a total of 151 days, which is a day longer than the biblical calendar of 5 months, where there are 30 days in each biblical calendar month. Then, how shall we explain the 5 months? And finally, if the Gulf of Mexico oil rig incident is indeed the fifth trumpet, then we must ask, who is this Abaddon and Apollyon? And what are these locusts that follow the orders from these king, Abaddon and Apollyon? Before moving on to demonstrating how different aspects of this incident fulfill the prophetic descriptions in detail, let us examine the counting of the 5-month period and its importance. What we see here is the military document. Since the military aircraft were deployed for spraying the dispersant, there is no better source than the military document to verify the facts. And the military document specifies, word for word, that in April 22nd, 2010, day 3, aircraft applied surface dispersants for the first time. And in page 34 of this same document, we can read more details of this operation. Zooming into the column in the right-hand side, it reads, the Deepwater Horizon responsible party submitted its first request to use aerial dispersants to the Federal On-Scene Coordinator at Morgan City, Louisiana. The Federal On-Scene Coordinator pre-authorizes its use at approximately 1 p.m. on April 22, 2010, and the Regional Response Team received notification a few hours later. So, from this we find out that the first ever authorization for using the aerial dispersants was issued around 1 p.m. and the actual use by the Regional Response Team would be few hours later than 1 p.m., which would be around 4 to 6 p.m. or so.